I'm very happy to see you here. I got dressed up. I think some of you did too. This is my tuxedo. I don't get to wear it very often, especially around home. Because the truth is, I actually don't like getting dressed up very much. I never did when I was a kid. But every time I had to put on a tie and jacket, I was like, ah! But it's kind of funny now, because it's just you and me. And the shirt's too small now. I couldn't even get... Anyway, so, how are you? This is Bill Harley. This is Bill Harley. And you're someone else, okay? If you didn't get dressed up, because I told you last on Tuesday, get dressed up and we'll see what we look like. So this is what I got dressed up like. Some of you might got dressed up weirder than me, more strange, or maybe even fancier. I don't know. So send us your pictures, okay? Okay, so I got a couple songs and a story for you today. I've got an old story. I mean, really old. I mean, like way older than me. Really old. But I really love it. And this is a song that I used to sing to my kids, Noah and Dylan, when they were growing up at bedtime. And they would help me out. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon his ladle, his ladle, his ladle. He played upon his ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his head was made of cream cheese, of cream cheese, of cream cheese. His head was made of cream cheese, and his name was Aiken Drum. Okay, now it's going to start to get really weird, all right? And I got this idea. Well, let me sing another verse so you get the idea of it, okay? His hair was made of spaghetti, spaghetti, spaghetti. His hair was made of spaghetti, and his name was Aiken Drum. So Noah and Dylan and I would sing this song when they were supposed to be getting quiet, and I was supposed to be calming them down, singing a lullaby. But then pretty soon they'd be shrieking foods and belly buttons and kumquats and grapes, and my wife Debbie would say, "You're supposed to be calming them down and you're getting them more excited." So I got this idea. So his head's made of cream cheese, his hair's made of spaghetti. I'm going to sing about all these things. You can't tell me, so I'll just make them up, what his other body parts are made of. But then afterwards, maybe you could go back and listen to it, and you could draw me a picture of this guy, Aiken Drum, with all the different things that he's made of, and then you could send it to me. You could post it on Facebook, or you could even send it to me, and we could put it up here. These are some pictures from Jenkins School, Griffin Jenkins School, where I visited, but we could put some of it, if you send them to me, we'll put them up here too, okay? So let me see. His head was made of cream cheese, his hair was made of spaghetti. Okay, here we go. His eyes are made of meatballs, of meatballs, of meatballs. His eyes were made of meatballs, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his arms were made of carrots, of carrots, of carrots. His arms were made of carrots, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his fingers were made of... What were his fingers made of? French fries, of French fries, of French fries. His fingers were made of French fries, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his knees were made of oranges, of oranges, of oranges. His knees were made of oranges, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his belly was made of a pumpkin, a pumpkin, a pumpkin. His belly was made of a pumpkin, and his name was Aiken Drum. Are you with me? Yeah, I say that, and you say yeah somehow on Facebook. Let me know that I'm not just being ridiculous all by myself. All right. His toes were made of marshmallows. Oh no, his teeth have to be made of marshmallows. His teeth were made of marshmallows, of marshmallows, of marshmallows. His His teeth were made of marshmallows, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his toes were made of gumdrops, of gumdrops, of gumdrops. His toes were made of gumdrops, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his nose was made of celery, one big long piece of celery. His nose was made of a celery, and his name was Aiken Drum. So you get the hang of this, right? You could just do this forever. And I would. Until even the kids got sick of it. And then they would have to calm down before I left. So I'll just do one more, alright? His belly button was made of a raisin with belly lint in it. His belly button was made of a raisin, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon a ladle, a ladle, ladle. He played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. There you go. That's an old song. It's an old folk song. I don't even know where I learned that. I don't think I sang it as a kid, but someplace I just kind of picked it up. You know what I was thinking? That's so weird. And adults know this more than kids, but even kids know. It's just, I am amazed at all the songs that are in my head. If I just think of one line, and not just my songs, but all the songs I sang ever since I was a kid, all the way up to now, I'm just always amazed by that. It's incredible to me. Okay, so I got a story I want to tell you, but let's do a couple things first. First I want to share, I mentioned the other day that every night after dinner, Noah, who's staying with us right now until we're through this, and I have to tell you guys, because I've been reading a little bit about it. I only read a little bit, because it will drive you crazy if you read too much, or if you watch too much about the coronavirus. You might not get the coronavirus, but you'll go crazy. So just read a little bit every day. It seems like we're going to be doing this for a while, till we're all better. But anyway, so Noah taught us how to make these cranes out of these origami cranes. And so every night at dinner, after dinner, we sit around and we make just a couple. And this is one that Noah made, and it's really well done. And this is one that I made, and it's not well done. Like his head is, or her head, what its head is twisted. So I'm not that good at it, but still kind of cool, right? So we got a whole bunch of them. We'll just keep making them until we're done. Thought you want to see that. And, okay, let's do birthdays, okay? Because there's some special birthdays. Well, every birthday's special, right? I mean, it's your day. So, Sonia Keach is 36 on April 13th. Okay, that was a couple days ago. Happy birthday, Sonia. David, I don't know what David's last name is. He didn't want to tell us. He's 53. Clarissa Huren is 11 today. Clarissa, happy birthday. One of my best buddies in the whole world, who is a great storyteller, and you can check him out. Sometimes he does shows online too. His name's Len Cabral, and Len is one of my dearest friends. He doesn't live very far from me, and I'm missing him because I haven't seen him since this whole thing started. Anyway, today's his birthday, and it's also his son-in-law's, Kenzo, and Kenzo is from New York, but they went at the very beginning. They came up, so they're staying with Len too. Kenzo and his Liana, his daughter, Len's daughter, Kenzo's wife, and their daughter Ella. So Kenzo turns 40 today, and Lenny, I don't know, man, but he's older than me. Okay, my brother-in-law Andy Block turns he turns 17. He's not on April 17th. He turns like way old. Not as old as me, but he's old. Amelia is going to be 5 tomorrow. Happy birthday, Amelia. Declan is turning 3. Declan, when I think of Declan, you know, I think of Elvis Costello, because that's Elvis Costello's real name. Now, here's a weird one, and I know this family, so I know they're a little bit weird. I visited them in Hiroshima, Japan, when I went there years ago. It's the Beck family, And they're writing that FIFA, the bearded dragon who lives with the Beck family in Hiroshima, turns 1 on April 20th. I don't even know what that's about. Alethea, 7 on April 20th, so that's just in a couple days, right? Maybe Sunday or Monday or something. So have a great day, Alethea. Barb Silvis turns 70 on April 20th. We've known Barb. I haven't seen for years. Terry Donaher it's his birthday today. Okay, he's 40. Look at all these people. And Jordan and Bailey have April birthdays, okay? If you got a birthday next week, let me know, okay? And we'll give a shout out to you. And let's sing this real quick. Happy birthday, we love you. Happy birthday, and may all your dreams come true. When you blow out the candles, one light stays aglow. It's the love light in your eyes, where'er you go. So keep that love light on, you guys. Happy birthdays. Now, I want to tell you an old story, and I've always loved this story, and I haven't told it till recently, and some of my other friends have told it for years. John Spellman, who's a great storyteller and a friend of mine, who lives in Phoenix now, Arizona, but a lot of people know him from Washington, D.C. He tells a version of the story called Ash Pit, and my friend Connie Reagan Blake, who lives in Asheville, tells a version of the story. And I've always loved this story, and it's really old. I don't know exactly. If someone said, how old is it? I would say 1,000 years. And I'm not even making that up. As a matter of fact, it was really old even when William Shakespeare was alive. And William Shakespeare took the beginning of this story and he used it for one of his most famous plays, King Lear. But this story ends up much more happily than King Lear. All right? So once upon a time, there was a king, and he had 3 daughters, and he was old. And his wife, the queen, had died, so he was really sad, and he really missed her. And he was getting older and older, and his daughters were growing up. It was kind of sad, but there was nobody around to tell him if he was all right or if people liked him, so he needed to hear that, because we all do. So one day, even though he was a king of this big kingdom, he called in his daughters. And they all lined up, and he said, I want you to tell me how much you love me. Well, they thought that was a little strange, but the oldest daughter said, oh, Daddy, I love you. I love you like the moon and the stars. And the old king said, that's good. And he turned to his second daughter and said, how much do you love me, honey? And she said, oh, Daddy, I love you like the sea and the sky. And he said, that's very nice, thank you. And then he turned to his third daughter, and he wouldn't have told anybody. But his third daughter was his favorite. And he said, how much do you love me? And she said, Daddy, I love you like meat loves salt. What? What did you say? I love you like meat loves salt. He said, that's not, out, what, out, no, out. He got furious. She said, Daddy said, out, I don't want to see you again, out. Daddy, no, out, gone. She was so embarrassed. You know, she was dressed up like a princess. She ran down the steps. She ran out the back door of the castle. She ran down to the river. She was so embarrassed and ashamed. Somebody said, what are you doing? She said, my daddy told me to get out of here. She didn't want to tell anybody. So she hid down by the river. And there were these tall grasses that grow by the river. Maybe you've seen them. Sometimes they're called rushes. And so she pulled a bunch of them off, these big things, and she wove them into this cape. A cape of rushes that covered her and had a hood on it, like a hoodie sweatshirt. And it went all the way down over her head. So it covered over her fancy princess dress. So no one could see who she was. Because she was embarrassed and she didn't want to tell anybody what had happened. Then she started to wander around and she felt like she couldn't go back to the castle. And she'd come up and she'd ask people for food or something, and they'd say, who are you? And she'd look out from underneath the cape of rushes, and she said, I'm no one. And she wandered and she wandered, and she didn't know what to do. As a matter of fact, she wandered so far, she left that kingdom. And she wandered through other kingdoms, wondering what she could do, wondering how she could ever get back home, what she had said to get her father so upset. Until finally, she came into this other kingdom. And she came to the castle. By now she was tired, and her cape, and still covered her head so you couldn't really see her, was falling apart and dirty and soiled. And she needed someplace to stay. And she saw that castle, and she said, maybe I can get some work here. So she knocked on the door. And the guard opened the door and said, what do you want? She said, I need some work. And he looked at her. She was all dressed in rags and this old cape. He said, we don't have any room. She said, please, please, I'll do anything in the kitchen, please. And he said, well, wait a minute. And he went back through the castle into the kitchen. And he found the cook. And he said, there's a girl out there, and she's all covered in this old cape. Can't tell anything about her, but she wants a job. She said she'll do anything. And the cook said, well, I need someone who'll clean the pots, so maybe we can have her do that. So they brought her in, and she still had that cape on. You could barely see her face. And the cook said, who are you? And she said, I'm no one. She said, who are you? He said, I'm no one. She said, well, you're wearing a cape of rushes. I'll just call you Cape of Rushes. You can clean the pots. And the girl said, I don't have a place to stay. She said, we can just sleep right there by the sink if you want. And that's what she did. That's what she did. Every day she cleaned pots for breakfast, for lunch and dinner. And they would give her some food, and then she would just lie down there, right there on a little mattress and sleep by the sink. Meanwhile, you might be wondering what happened to the king after he got mad at his daughter. Well, months went by and she didn't come back. And his two older daughters, well, they both got married. And they got married to princes or kings or something. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But they did. They went to other castles. And then they started to have children. And now the king was really lonely. I mean, he still had this kingdom, but he has this castle all by himself. And so he went to his oldest daughter and he said, I'm wondering if I can stay with you. I'm just by myself. She said, Daddy, you have your own kingdom. You have your own castle. You have to stay there. He said, no, I'd like to stay with you. She said, oh, Daddy, I'm much too busy. I can't really take care of you. You're fine. If you need someplace to stay, go ask my sister. So he did. He went to his second daughter. And she said pretty much the same thing. She said, oh, Daddy, you have enough. I'm so busy. I got my own kids now. I can't take care of everybody. I'll come visit you, but you have to go back to your castle. And he went back to his castle. And there was no third daughter to ask. Because he had said, I don't want to see you again. Are you with me? Yeah. Well, so the third daughter, who everyone is calling Cape of Rushes. Every day she'd get up and she'd scrub the pots all day long and they'd give her a little bit to eat. Well, one day, the servants from the kitchen came in and they said, oh, Cape of Rushes, guess what's going to happen? They said, what? She said, what? He said, there's going to be a ball tonight. And the people in their fancy clothes and their carriages and everything, they're all going to come. And we're not allowed to go to the ball, but we're going to be able to watch from the balcony. You should watch and see everybody all dressed up, and the music will be wonderful. You've got to come with us. It's really exciting. And she said, oh, I don't really know about parties. I don't think I'll go. And they said, come on. And she said, no, I don't want to go. And that night, after the dinner dishes were all cleaned up, they all went up to the party, except for that girl. And when they had all left, she took off that cape. Now, it's a funny story, but it's just a story. She still had the princess dress on, right? You with me? She went out the back door, out the kitchen door of the castle, and she came all the way around the castle, and she came up the front steps of the castle, and everybody turned and looked at her. They said, who's that? She walked into the ballroom, and everybody was dancing and dancing. And after a while, the prince, the son of the king, was dancing. And he saw her, and he'd never seen anyone like her, and she was nice. Are you with me? So he came up and he asked for a dance. And she knew how to dance. And at the end of the dance, he said, who are you? And suddenly this frown passed over her face, and she said, no one. He said, who? She said, no one. And she turned around and she ran out of the ballroom and she ran down the steps of the castle, around the castle. And when the prince came out, there was no one there. Well, the next morning, she got up early. She'd gone back and she put that cape of rushes back on. She slept by the sinks. Everybody else came into the kitchen the next morning. They said, cape of rushes, you wouldn't believe what happened last night. She said, what? Well, we were watching the ball, and this girl came in this beautiful dress. She was beautiful, and no one had ever seen her before. And the prince danced with her, and then she ran away, and nobody knows who she is. She said, that's unusual. They said it is, and there's going to be another ball next week. Maybe she'll come back. And they kept talking to her about coming to the ball, because there's going to be another ball the next week. Are you with me? Right, okay. And the girl kept saying, no, I'm not much for parties. And sure enough, that next week, a week later, there was another ball. And everybody said, they're going to let us watch, you got to come. And she said, I'm not much for parties. And they left. And as soon as she was sure they were gone, she took off that cape, she stuffed it under the sink, she ran out the back door, she just skirted the edge of the castle, and she came up the steps. And she came into the ballroom. And everybody whispered, she's back. And the prince was dancing with somebody, but as soon as he saw her, he left that other person, and he went up and asked her for a dance. And they danced and danced. 1, 2, 3 dances. And at the end of the third dance, he said, now, who are you? She looked down and she said, I'm no one. He said, who are you? He said, I'm no one. I'm going. Don't follow me. And she left. She ran down the steps. Everybody watched her go, but when they came out of the castle, she was already gone. How could she have gotten away so fast? Well, the next morning, all the people from the kitchen, the workers, they came and they said, Cabarrusha, she came back, and there she was in that cape, hiding her face. She said, really? They said, oh, the prince is beside himself. He doesn't know what to do. He's going to have another ball tonight and hope she comes back. You've got to come. You've got to see her. And the girl said, I'm not much for parties. Are you with me? Third night, right? Everything happens in threes. So they begged her to come. They all left, and she watched them, and when the kitchen door closed, and she was sure they were all gone, she took off that old cape of rushes she'd been wearing for months and months and months. She stuffed it under the sink. She went out the back door of the kitchen. She came around, and she came up the steps of the main entrance of the castle, and the prince was standing there waiting for her. He said, come with me. And they danced all night. And the last dance, and when they did these dances, the last dance was always a waltz. And they danced the waltz. And he said, I have something for you. And he reached in his pocket, and he was wearing a tuxedo, just like this one, but maybe even a little fancier. And he pulled out a ring. He said, here. And he put it in her hand, and she looked at it. He said, who are you? I'm no one. Who are you? I'm no one. Who? She said no, and she turned and she ran and she was gone. Now, you know what? At this point, don't you think, that's ridiculous? How could she get away like that? Why didn't someone stop her? They knew she was going to run away. But you know what? First of all, it's just a story that we tell. And second of all, how many times in our lives do things just escape us because we're doing something else, that we're not paying attention? And that's what happened. She escaped. She slipped away. She went back into the kitchen. Before anyone came into the kitchen, she put on that old cape of rushes. She lay down on the mattress by the sinks, and she fell asleep. The next morning, everybody came out. They said, oh, cape of rushes, you should have been there. And she came back, and she ran away, and nobody could catch her, and the prince is beside himself. And she said, oh, isn't that too bad? They said he doesn't know what to do. Well, she was cleaning up the pots after breakfast.
and they were getting ready for lunch. And one of the servants came in and said to the cook, well, the prince would like soup today. And she said, well, soup is not on the menu. Well, the prince wants soup. She said, no, I have too many other things going on. I'm making all these other things that the king wanted, the queen wanted. The prince wants soup. She said, I don't have time to make the soup. I can't do it. You'll have to tell him. And that girl, caper rushes, her head still hidden, her face still hidden, who she was still hidden. She said, wait. I'll make the soup. And the cook said, you just clean the pot. She said, I can make the soup. Please let me make the soup. And that cook was so hassled and so many things to do. She said, all right, but it has to be good. It's for the prince. And she said, I know. And so she made the soup. And then it was time for lunch to be served. And she said, I'll pour out the soup. And she ladled out the soup into a bowl, just for the prince. And the last thing she did, before it was served, was she took off that ring and she dropped it in the bowl. And the soup was served. And the prince started to eat the soup. And at the very end of the meal, he got to that last spoonful of soup. And he looked, and there, sitting in the bowl of the spoon, was that ring. The ring he had given the girl the night before. Are you with me? Yeah. And he called the servants and said, bring the cook here. I want to talk to her about the soup. The servant went into the kitchen and said to the head cook, the prince wants to see you about the soup. She said, oh, no, I should not have had it made. He wants you right now. So the cook came out, and the prince looked at her and said, who made the soup? She said, I did. He said, who made the soup? She said, I did. You did not make the soup. Who made the soup? Oh, she said, I'm so sorry. Who made it? She said, I'm so sorry. I had so many things to do. I didn't have time to make it. Who made it? There's a girl, and she cleans the pots, and I'm sorry. Shh. Bring her here to me. So the cook went back into the kitchen. And she said, the prince wants to see you. There was Capper Rushes, wearing that old cape, a hood over her head. And they led her into the dining room. And there was the prince, and he stood up, and he looked at her, and he said, who are you? And she looked down, so he couldn't see her face. She said, I'm no one. He said, who are you? She said, I'm no one. And he held out his hand with the ring in it, and he said, who are you really? And that was what she wanted to hear. When she heard that, she pulled back the hood, and she dropped the cape, and there she was, the princess. And this is a folk and fairy tale. You can guess what happened, right? Are you with me? The prince and the princess, what do you think? They got married. But that's not what the story's about. Remember at the beginning? Once upon a time there was a king. This is not about the prince. No. But they got married. And they had a big, huge wedding. And they invited hundreds and hundreds of people. Kings and queens and lords and dukes from all over, from many, many miles around, thousands of miles around. And they all came. Even they invited an old king who lived in a castle by himself. Are you with me? You know who that is, right? The day of the wedding, the princess went into the kitchen and she said to the cook, today for my wedding feast, I want you to make all the food without salt. And the cook said, what? That's what I want. No, I can't do that. People won't like it. She said, it's my wedding feast. Please, people will complain. She said, it's my feast. That's what I want. She was the princess, and one day she would be the queen. And so that's what they did. And it was a beautiful wedding, I guess. I wasn't there. And they all sat down at this long, long table. Let's just stretch for 100 yards. I don't know, there were so many people at it. And they served the soup, and there was no salt.
And they said, we need salt, we need salt. And the servant said, there is no salt. They said, the soup is no good without salt. And then they served the salad. People said, we need some salt on the salad. And the servant said, there is no salt. And then they served the meat. And everybody started to complain. They said, bring us some salt. This needs some salt. It needs some flavor. And down at the far end of the table, an old man bent his head and he began to cry. He started to sob, and he couldn't stop sobbing. And the people around him said, oh, stop, don't cry. It's just salt. And he raised his head. He wiped his eyes. He said, that's not it. A long time ago, I asked my daughter how much she loved me, and I misunderstood her. And now I've lost her, and I can't get her back. And then the princess, who was at the far end of the table, she stood up. She said, Daddy, Daddy, it's me. This is me. I'm still here, and I love you, and you can live with me. And he did. And then they lived happily ever after. And that's the story of Caparushes, or Like Meat Loves Salt. I love that story. One of the reasons I think I love it is because what happens at the beginning is just so horrible, but it's just a misunderstanding. You know, sometimes people say things, or they're in the middle of something, they're not thinking about how they say something, and it's misunderstood. And instead of trying to figure it out, we just jump to a conclusion, and then we make things worse. You know. So many times I get into an argument with somebody and I realize this was not about me at all. It was something else that they were going through. But there you are. And it's got a great ending. A much better ending than King Lear. Okay, let me see here. Oh, I got another song I want to sing. I do want to say a couple things. If you want to send me requests of things you'd really like to hear, and I do have a bunch of them, and we'll get to them evidently. If you want to send me some good things that have happened to you, I like to let people know, to let them know that, you know, it's just all not like, this is horrible, when is it going to end? Although we all feel like that, like this. We're all like this all the time. What's really bad is if you're living with somebody, it's okay if one of you up and another one's down, but every once in a while, you know, if you're going that like that, but if all of a sudden if you're going like this at the same time and you're all the way down there, you know? So it's good to talk about good things. As a matter of fact, you know, I told you about the origami, these. If you guys have learned something this week, why don't you let me know that too, okay? Because we're stuck here, yeah? Now I'm going to sing a song. I'm going to finish up with a song. I need a flat pick in here. I bet if someone said to me, if someone said to you, you kids, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, guess what? You're not going to have to go to school for 2 months. You'd all be going, yay! That is awesome! We're sick of school! And then, then you go, oh man, I would like to go to school. So I think the parents, when their children say that, they should record that. Just get out your little recorder and then you can play it back to them when school starts. And the kid said, I wish I never had to go to school. Oops. I have to do this. It's got a part for you. You can be my backup singers. When the teacher calls and says, did you get my note? And she says she didn't get the one you wrote. Look in the backpack. Look can see. Down at the bottom, that's where it's bound to be. When your kid says that she can't go on the trip because she didn't hand in her permission slip, look in the backpack, look if you dare. Down at the bottom, you're sure to find it there. Here's your part, it goes like this. Down in the backpack, there's a big surprise. Down in the backpack, don't you wonder what lies down in the backpack? Something's starting to grow down in the backpack. I think you better not go down in the backpack. Backpack. There's the yogurt they left there yesterday. Last week's tuna fish they meant to throw away. Down in the backpack, there they'll stay. Never again to see the light of day. Here comes your part, here we go. Down in the backpack, treasures to be found. Down in the backpack, something crawling around. Down in the backpack, lost library books. Down in the backpack, I think you better not look. Down in the backpack, backpack. So, if things get lost and you don't know where they go, and you ask your kid and he just says, and what do you guys say? All on three. 1, 2, 3. I don't know. Look in the backpack. It's not too late. Archaeologists moving in soon to excavate. Last chance, here we go. Down in the backpack, something smelly and old. Down in the backpack, something covered in mold. Down in the backpack, so many things there reside. Down in the backpack, I think there's something that died. Down in the backpack, backpack. So that's that for today. I'll look forward to seeing you guys Tuesday. If you want to visit my webpage, you can see all the other stuff I got going on there. Let me see if there's anything to see. Oh yeah, some of you made contributions. I really appreciate it. I know we're all struggling, and I really appreciate anything you do. And we're going to talk about that more later, next time. But you can go to the Miniconcerts page on my website, and I really appreciate that support. But most of all, I'm really treasuring the time I get to spend with you. It's not anything we planned on, but here we are doing something that we didn't know we were going to do, and that much is a good thing. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and see you next Tuesday.